What an absolute stinker from the Houston Texans. They lose to the Tennessee Titans in horrific fashion, 32-27. Not only did Kaimi Fairbairn miss a game-winning field goal, the Texans get a safety when they get an opportunity to get the ball back and drive down and let him hit a long field goal. Because can't hit the long ones, can't hit the short ones, but just a putrid performance. That's my word of the day. Putrid. I'll say it a bunch because the defense had putrid moments, the offense had putrid moments, the special teams had putrid moments. Putrid. Word of the day, like it's Sesame Street, because it is elementary offense from this team. They cannot get anything consistent from this offense. They are abysmal when they need something from their offense. Any of their success is such a short lived spurt that is irreplicable throughout the game that it is maddening to watch. And the amount of times that they decided to run the football when they could not run the football today is beyond me. I mean, they threw the ball a bunch on first down. They had some success doing that. They ran the ball a bunch on first and longs, second and longs, and it didn't go anywhere. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. They couldn't get anything going outside. Joe Mixon, yet again, from a couple of weeks ago when he averaged under 2 yards per carry, yet again, under 2 yards per carry. 14 carries for 22 yards for Joe Mixon. This offensive line couldn't move anybody, couldn't get anything going. And then the passing attack, disjointed as usual. You have a big play, and then you can't replicate that big play. You can't protect C.J. Stroud throughout the course of the entire game. You can't have big plays stay on the board because penalties wipe them away. There's just so many different things that went wrong with this team. Just penalties on special teams that when your offense is not playing well, you can't afford to lose those hidden yards on special teams with those penalties. It's just bad on so many different levels from this Texans team. They just did not have the performance offensively, special teams wise, or even defensively to finish this thing off. Because the Tennessee Titans, and I know the defense put up 2 points, the Tennessee Titans should not ever be able to put up 30 points on you. But Will Levis and that crew should not ever be able to put up 30 points. So let's just start with the big picture, and then we'll kind of have the old trickle down from there. D'Amico Ryan's not having this team to play. He admitted it. The players admitted it. Not being ready to fire up from the word go and having Tennessee come out and kind of punch you in the mouth there in that first quarter, that's totally unacceptable. This is a divisional game, and I know that it's the 2 and whatever Tennessee Titans coming to town, but you've got to have these guys ready. They get 17 of them a season, and to not be ready in a game like this is just totally unacceptable. And then the defense, some of the calls, late, hey, the players are in position, they're not making the tackles, or, they don't send enough pressure, or they trust this guy on the field. He makes a mistake. Like, I'm not going to get too into the weeds about the calls from D'Amico Ryans, but not having the defense ready to go, not having the whole team ready to go from the word go and admitting that after, like, that's totally unacceptable this deep into the season, how many games they've played up to this point. Like, that can't be something, and shame on the players for not realizing that and doing something to kind of jumpstart the mood. Now, obviously, they got going a little bit more in the second quarter. They put 10 points on the board, but still, out of halftime, again, just a total issue. And D'Amico Ryans at this point, he just kind of addresses what went wrong in the second half, but there's not really an answer for why the second half is so bad or why they can't get things going in the second half. I asked him, what went wrong? What the second half scoring yet again? The offense didn't score in the second half. Like, what happened? What happened? We had too many negative plays. Yeah, we put us behind the chains. Couldn't get it going. Okay, why? This should not be a more than half a season long thing for a team. Like, there should be adjustments, changes made in the situation, and it starts at the top with the head coach. Defensively, he says the defense wasn't good enough, that they didn't finish off the Tennessee Titans and give the Texans the win, that the offense scored enough points. Don't know that I totally agree with that. Did the defense get a little iffy there throughout course of the game? Yeah, sure. Tony Pollard shouldn't have averaged 5 yards a carry on you. That shouldn't be the case. But, I mean, how many teams lose a 5-interception game and an 8-sack game where you also had a defensive score? How many teams lose that game? And how many teams lose those 2 games in the same season? Like, that has got to be an incredibly rare situation. It's maybe only happened once ever. Like, there's been some really bad football teams that probably didn't accomplish that and still lost football games. Like, it's maddening that they have a 5-interception game the last time they're at home and they don't win that football game. And then they have a 8-sack and defensive score performance, and they don't win that game. Where are the answers from DeMeco Ryans? Are they coming? Can he turn this team around? Can he get them in gear for a road game against the Jacksonville Jaguars? Can he get them in gear for these final 4 weeks after the bye week and then ultimately a playoff game? Lots of questions about head coach DeMeco Ryans and some of the things that he has to clean up from his spot in the organization. From DeMeco Ryans, let's go to the quarterback. CJ Stroud wasn't good enough. He can't throw those 2 interceptions. He said he didn't see John Mechie. He threw it to the window. Well, John Mechie wasn't in the window. I don't know if that's John Mechie's fault. I don't know if CJ Stroud shouldn't throw the ball to the window when the receivers may be supposed to be there. I know this. When CJ Stroud makes a mistake, a lot of times it's hands on the head. Oh, no, what did I do? When other guys make a mistake that lead to what looks like a CJ Stroud mistake, there's a little bit of like the look. It feels like he kind of gave John Mechie the look there on that one. The other one, he didn't throw it high enough. Okay, you're trying to get the ball to Nico Collins. The defender's right there. You throw it too low, and Nico Collins doesn't get it. The Tennessee Titans get it, and they intercept the ball. It's just not good enough. A couple of other passes were too low from C.J. Stroud. I mean, he said it himself in the postgame. I wasn't good enough. I've got to be better, and he's right. He was not good enough at the quarterback spot. Fully in the sophomore slump. Fully, wholly, totally in the sophomore slump, regardless of why he is in that situation, in that mode, regardless of how the outside factors put him into the sophomore slump situation, he is currently in the sophomore slump that we all feared was going to occur, and that some of us, myself included, sort of brushed away because of the incredible performance his rookie year. Stuff that doesn't just leave you from one year to the next as a quarterback has seemingly left C.J. Stroud. And the number one thing is probably the accuracy. The accuracy is not anywhere near where it was last year from C.J. Stroud. He's not accurate enough from the quarterback spot. And yeah, it feels like sometimes he's got to be perfect. Well, that's the challenge of the quarterback position. And if he's going to say he didn't play well enough, and we can certainly see some of the moments where he didn't play well enough, some of the guys he didn't see, some of the quick decisions he needed to make. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good enough from the franchise quarterback, and that's an element of why this team lost to the lowly Tennessee Titans. Okay, offensive line. This offensive line is hopeless. I don't. What's left? What's left? Juice Scruggs can't get it done at left guard. Shaq Mason's playing really bad football. Devontae Sweat just tossed him aside like he was a child playing with mascots at halftime. He just tossed him aside at one point and went and sacked C.J. Stroud. Like, Shaq Mason's not playing very well. It's the worst football of his career right now. Juice Scruggs doesn't look like he's a starter in the NFL. He didn't play well at center. He hasn't played well at left guard. Titus Howard, Laramie Tunsil, the consistency is not as much as you would expect from those guys. Titus gives up the pressure there at the end. CJ gets a little bit of happy feet. He steps out of bounds. Game's over because you give up the safety. Like, that's not good enough. And the problem to me that really kind of jumps off the board, the problem to me that is just really a huge issue with this offensive line is they don't operate like they've got a really bad offensive line. They do not operate the offense in a way that is, we've got a bad offensive line. You saw some of the creativity that Tennessee did today. You know who has a bad offensive line? The Tennessee Titans. They've got a really bad offensive line. One of the worst in football when it comes to giving up pressures. Hence, 8 sacks in this game. But you saw some of the creativity with their rushing attack, how they got the ball in Tony Pollard's hands with time for guys to make decisions. Time for him to make decisions to get to different holes that the offensive line was trying to open up. He could get it outside from some of those spots. The Texans, they don't operate like that. They operate like they've got an average or a good offensive line. They let C.J. Stroud take these big dropbacks. They roll him out when they do not have pressure picked up. They roll him out, and he rolls out into pressure. That happened twice against the Titans in this game. Like, this offensive line is bad, but they don't operate like they've got a bad offensive line, which is maddening to watch. You watch the Tennessee Titans, who have a bad offensive line, go out there, and their quarterback goes and throws for 278 yards, and a lot of it is quick stuff where he just gets the ball out fast because guys go out there and win. And it's not like they only got the ball out there to Calvin Ridley. Like, they went out there and got quick wins from everybody in their passing attack. Tyler Boyd, who's a veteran, who's been around the block and is not nearly as good as he used to be. The running back, the Westbrook Akine guy, obviously he had the big play. Like, they can get the ball out fast. And we say this every week, which is sort of one of those, like, every week we say this, like, can they just get the ball out fast? Can they get the ball out fast, make a quick decision, and keep the train on time. Keep the train on time and keep the train on the tracks, because a lot of times when they have these big, long, drawn-out plays, or they're not creative in their run game, the train gets off the track, and then they're punting because 3rd and 16, you can't convert that on a regular basis. Or 3rd and 12, or 3rd and 8, and all the different stuff that you see 3rd and longs. Like, you're seeing that because the offensive line is not good enough. They don't operate the offense like they have a bad offensive line. And that's Bobby Slowick. They've got to change that. But we've been asking for that for 2 months now, so I can't imagine that's going to change. So the way they're operating now feels like the way that they're going to operate for the rest of the season. I mean, they've got 5 games left here in the regular season. And so it feels like that's the way that they're going to operate, and that's just not winning football. We've seen it. They're not consistent enough. They're not good enough. They do not win football games when they operate that way. So they have got to be better. They have got to be better in the building of this offense on a week-to-week basis, or they're going to hobble to the finish line as AFC South champions and be a toothless tiger in the playoffs for whoever the 5 seed is that comes to NRG Stadium for Saturday afternoon and just absolutely wallops them. Because if they're not perfect on defense and they don't have Joe Mixon carrying this offense, they're not a good team. They're not a good team. They're in fact a bad team more often than not, when the offense isn't getting carried by Joe Mixon and the defense isn't damn near perfect. And my goodness, how much better do you need to be than score a defensive touchdown and allow and get 8 sacks? But I guess the defense needed to be a little bit better than that. But the offense is, I said the offensive line's hopeless. The offense is hopeless. I mean, what would give you any idea that they're going to fix this? Because these are all issues that have been present since week 3, week 4, week 5. Like, these issues have been present throughout the duration of the season. They get a Band-Aid for a moment, and then the wound becomes a gaping, infected wound of inability to be consistent on offense. And even big plays, good plays are impossible to replicate for this offense. And it is a maddening situation to watch this team play offense, where they run to nowhere so often. They don't pass block well. They're too complicated in some of their plays from a run design, from a pass design. And you watch other teams very simply go back to basics, get the ball out of their quarterback's hands, and beat up what should be a pretty good defense for this Texans team, but it wasn't today. Do you fire Bobby Slowick? Does that change anything? Does Bill Lazor calling plays change anything? Does Gerard Johnson, the quarterback's coach, calling plays change anything? Does Ben McDaniels, the wide receiver coach, calling plays, does that change anything? Couldn't hurt. I mean, how much worse could this offense get? They couldn't run the football today, and they can't consistently pass the football. All of a sudden, are they going to not be able to consistently pass the football and consistently run the football? Great. That happens anyway. So, does a change help? I don't know. Because these guys all run the same, they're all in the same offense, so are you going to keep doing some of the things? You're going to keep trying to have Shaq Mason Poole to pick up a blitzer instead because he can't get over there? That blitzer just annihilates CJ Stroud. Is that what you're going to do still if you have Bill Lazor calling plays, or you have Gerard Johnson calling plays, or you have Big McDaniels calling plays? Now, I'm not saying that you should at least explore it, try it, think about it if you're D'Amico Ryans, you're Nick Caserio, and the staff. I'll say this much. You stay like this on offense, I don't care what happens the first playoff game. I don't care what happens in the playoffs. You got to get a new offensive coordinator. You got to bring a whole new offense in here. I would bring a whole new offense in here, something from the McVay tree or something from another offensive scheme. I'd bring a whole new offense to the team. I wouldn't go to another Shanahan disciple, because it feels like the league is caught up to the Shanahan disciples. And it feels like today, and Jared Patterson talked about this in the locker room, they were ready for how the Texans were going to operate. The Titans were. Patterson said, yeah, the linebackers, they didn't play the way that they thought they were going to play, the way that they had seen them play on film. Well, then there was no adjustment to the linebackers playing differently. The rushing attack didn't work at all from the first half to the second half. So, where's the adjustment? I mean, you can't be this bad in second halves. You can't be this predictable on offense. Opposing defenses they have the Texans number, and it's not getting any better, or you shouldn't have any belief that this is going to get any better unless CJ Stroud just has a transcendent performance at the quarterback spot. the offense doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. Defensively, could they have been better on defense? Could they have started faster? Absolutely. Absolutely. The Titans shouldn't score 30 points on you. You shouldn't be in those positions. Now, did you have some short fields that you had to deal with because, hey, you're going to, your quarterback threw 2 interceptions he shouldn't have thrown? Yeah, you had some short fields that were unfortunate to deal with and were tough to deal with. I get that aspect of it, but you can't give up 30 points to the Tennessee Titans. And it's just not – that's not an offense that should be scoring 30 points against you. You can't give up 5 yards of carry to their running back. Tony Pollard's good. He's not 5 yards of carry good. That can't happen and be successful. Their tight end, who I can't say his name, Okonkwo, that 70-yard touchdown was awful. I mean, how does that happen? That's not the fastest guy in the world. And he just, matriculated down the field and nobody stopped him. I mean, that gave the Titans so much juice and life. Like they were there. That was one of those, like, you could kind of put them away if you kind of keep them from doing things. And, but no, they got 70 yards and a touchdown. And that's about the easiest touchdown Will Levis is going to have of his career. So that wasn't good enough. The secondary, I mean, Stingley got a couple times. The safeties get beat up on. Kamari Lassiter had some special teams penalties, but I thought he played okay on defense from a defensive standpoint. They had the broken pass or the broken pass defense on Nick Westbrook-Akine that allowed the touchdown. That wasn't good. With Stingley or a safety or a combination of both, whatever the reason, that can't happen. So 2 giant breakdowns on defense to allow touchdowns. And then really the Titans kind of had to fight really hard. They put together some nice drives. Like I'm not going to pretend like the Titans are like some, babbling incompetent idiots. Like, no, they put together some nice drives and kept some things going, which was rare to see because we don't see that from the Texans very often, where they kind of put drives together and overcome some things. Like they don't do that very often. So the Titans did that a couple of times to get into field goal range and set themselves up. Obviously they had some short fields as well, but it's tough for me to sit here and tell you anything really wasn't good enough about the defense because the offense left so much out there. Kaimi Fairbairn misses a field goal. They settle for field goals. I mean, they have big plays that get them into the red zone, and then it just falls apart. They don't put 7 points on the board. They put 3 points on the board, and it comes back to bite you when you let a team like the Titans hang around. Yeah, D'Amico Ryans after the game, he blames the defense, said, hey, the offense put up enough points for them to win the game. I don't believe that to be the case, but you also shouldn't give up 30 points to the Tennessee Titans. The defense should be allowed to have an off day, and the offense picks them up. Instead, the way the Texans win football games now is they're elite on defense and they have an elite rushing attack. And if one of those two is off that day, the Texans are probably losing that football game. It doesn't matter if it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. It doesn't matter if it's Tennessee to end the season. It certainly doesn't matter, or certainly does matter when it's the Baltimore Ravens here for Christmas, or it's Kansas City on the road, or it's the Miami Dolphins who suddenly have a little bit of juice to them coming to town out of the bye week. Like there's some decent football teams showing up, but the Texans have one way to win a football game. They got to be elite on defense, and they've got to be an elite rushing attack. And if they're not an elite rushing attack, which is more likely to show up, they're not going to be able to move the football consistently on offense. They're not going to be able to score points, and they'll lose the football game to the Jaguars, to the Dolphins, to the Ravens, to the Chiefs, to the Titans. Now, we know that's not going to be the case all the time because Joe Mixon and the offensive line have had moments, in fact, more often than not, where they've gotten things going. But if they run the ball well and they play good defense, they'll have a shot. They'll have a chance. But if they've got to rely on the passing offense or the offense as a whole that day, they're shot, and they won't win a football game. So that's the autopsy on this one. There's probably some minutia and some things that I missed. Let me know in the comment section. We can certainly discuss it there. That's down below. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And don't forget SNL with myself and Landry Locker from the Locker Room on YouTube Monday at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Live, taking your thoughts, comments, joys, and concerns. Probably not a lot of joys, a lot more concerns and comments about this one. And bad one from the Texans. Really disappointing loss. And they'd have to do some really incredible things to make up for this one. And they've got to do some very basic fundamental things to bounce back from this one because it just hasn't been good enough. It hasn't been in the totality good enough really at any point this season from this team. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it and can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.